Welcome to task assignment and internal communication for pragmatic trial teams. This module is built for the people doing the day to day coordination work, turning a protocol into real tasks, keeping multiple contributors aligned, and preventing things from slipping through gaps. We'll focus on practical routines you can apply immediately: how to define ownership, set clear expectations, track action items, run short, effective internal meetings, and escalate issues early without creating noise.
When operations are working, you can feel it. Work moves forward without constant chasing, and problems surface early instead of exploding later. Good operations really comes down to three habits. First, every task has structure: a named owner, a due date, and a clear definition of done. So nothing lives in the gray zone of someone should look into it. Second, meetings produce outcomes. If a meeting ends without decisions, action items, and next steps, it's not a meeting, it's a time sink. Good teams leave each discussion knowing exactly what changed, what's next, and who is doing it. Third, escalations follow a process.
You start by planning the work, translating what needs to happen into a short list of priorities for the next cycle: this week, this sprint, or this month. Then you assign. Every item gets a clear owner, not a group, and the owner is accountable for driving it to completion, even if others contribute. Next, you track. You're not tracking to micromanage, you're tracking so delays are visible early, and you can separate in progress from stuck. Communication is the connective tissue. Updates are brief and structured: what changed, what's next, what's blocked, and what help is needed. When something is blocked or time sensitive, you escalate using predefined triggers, so issues get resolved quickly instead of quietly aging. Then you close, verify completion against the definition of done, capture what was delivered, and update logs or documents. Finally, you learn. Take 2 minutes to note what slowed you down and what to adjust next cycle, because small improvements compound over the life of the trial.
Before any meeting or update, take a moment to consider who is in the room and shape your communication to fit. With the internal team, keep it operational and execution focused. What's moving, what's blocked, and what needs to happen next. With leadership or a steering group, keep it concise and decision oriented, clear options, a recommendation, and the key risks and resource implications. With patient partners and community members, use plain language, lead with purpose and impact, and make it easy for people to contribute meaningfully. Internal meetings are where pragmatic trials either stay coordinated or slowly bleed time. The rule is use only the meeting types you actually need and make each one earn its place. A weekly ops meeting is your execution heartbeat. Quick status, what's done, what's due, what's stuck, and what needs action in the next few days. A recruitment/implementation huddle is for problem solving, barriers at sites, workflow breakdowns, and what to change next so enrollment and delivery improve. A data/quality review is where exceptions get handled: data quality issues, protocol deviations, and anything requiring a consistent response, not one-off fixes. Leadership steering is not for updates, it's for decisions, scope changes, resource allocation, risk mitigation, and priorities when trade-offs are required. And ad hoc incident meetings should be rare and time-boxed, used only for urgent safety signals, major deviations, or a true operational crisis.
Partnership meetings are where you keep external partners, funders, and multi site teams aligned on the decisions that shape the trial. These are typically held monthly or quarterly for about 60 to 90 minutes, with the right decision makers in the room and a formal agenda plus pre read so time is spent on choices, not updates. The core agenda should stay focused on trial progress, cross site challenges, resource and risk decisions, and any protocol changes that require shared agreement. When there is overlap with internal leadership steering, it is often more efficient to combine them. Resolve internal decisions first, then use the remaining time for partner alignment to reduce overall meeting burden.
This agenda template is built to force productivity. Start with objectives. 1 minute to state why you're meeting and what you must leave with. If you can't name the outputs, you shouldn't be meeting. Next is status by workstream, but keep it time boxed and high level. Details belong in pre work, not live airtime. Then shift the meeting's real purpose exceptions and blockers. This is where most of the time should go, solving the few things that could derail timelines, sites, data quality, or implementation. After that, move into decisions needed. Then lock in action items with owners and due dates. Specific next steps, not vague intentions. Finally, confirm the next check-in. This is how meetings stop being a drain and start being an execution tool.
Most meeting chaos isn't a bad meeting problem. It's a lack of pre-work. If people show up unprepared, the meeting turns into live reading, vague updates, and decisions made on incomplete information. These four requirements prevent that. First, updates are submitted before the meeting, ideally at least 24 hours ahead. Meeting time is for discussion and decisions, not status reporting. Second, the action item tracker is updated before you meet. Owners confirm what's done, what's still in progress, and what's blocked. Third, decisions needed are listed with options. Each decision comes with brief context, 2 to 3 realistic options, a recommendation, and the implications. So decision makers can actually prepare and you can decide in real time. Fourth, required attendees are defined. You're explicit about who must be there, decision makers and accountable owners, versus who's optional. When these four are in place, meetings become short, focused, and outcome driven.
Meetings run well when roles are explicit, because otherwise you get drift, side conversations, and no one capturing what actually got decided. You only need a few clear roles. The facilitator owns the flow, keeps time, follows the agenda, pulls the group back from tangents, and makes sure the meeting ends with outcomes. Decisions and actions, not good discussion. The note taker captures the durable record in a shared space. Decisions made, action items with owners and due dates, and key context that explains why the decision was made. Workstream leads don't show up to read status. They surface exceptions, blockers, risks, and items that need cross-team input or escalation. And the decision maker is the person who can actually choose between options. If that person isn't present, you don't sort of decide anyway. You either defer the decision or convert the discussion into pre-work, so the decision maker can approve quickly afterward. This is how meetings stay short, authoritative, and accountable. The standard here is simple. Post documentation within 24 hours of meeting close. Same-day documentation creates accountability, prevents rework, and builds a searchable trail that helps with onboarding and, when needed, audits. First, capture decisions. Not just what was decided, but why, so the team doesn't reopen the same debate every week. Second, capture action items with the full structure: owner, due date, and definition of done. Third, capture risks and issues raised, including whether they were resolved, parked, or escalated, and to whom, so blockers don't quietly persist. Finally, include links to supporting materials, the tracker, drafts, reports, or data outputs referenced, so anyone reading later can trace the context quickly.
A strong action item is specific enough that two different people would execute it the same way. A weak action item is vague enough that it sounds productive, but nobody can tell what done looks like. The examples on the left work because they include three things: a clear output, a due date, and an implicit or explicit definition of done. Draft site startup checklist V1 and circulate to internal meeting attendees for review by 4 p.m. on Friday. Tells you exactly what will be produced, where it goes next, and when. Update IRB/REB submission template with revised consent language by 10 a.m. March 15th. Tells you the artifact, the change, and the deadline. Schedule kickoff call with top 5 recruiting sites by end of week is measurable. You either have the invites sent and the call booked, or you don't. On the right, the bad examples fail because they're just verbs without an endpoint. Work on, update, contact. Contact them to do what, with what message, by when, and what counts as success. The rule is non-negotiable. Every action item must include output plus due date plus definition of done. If you can't write those three components, you don't have an action item yet, you have a topic. This life cycle is how you stop action items from getting stuck in a permanent, in progress state. Create means the task is captured with the basics: what the output is, who owns it, and when it's due. If it's missing any of those, it isn't ready to enter the system. Assign is the moment the owner accepts responsibility explicitly. Ownership isn't assumed or implied, it's confirmed. In progress means work is actively underway, and the owner is providing updates when something changes, especially if timelines slip or dependencies appear. Then there's the critical distinction most teams skip: done versus verified. Done means the owner believes the work is complete and provides evidence, like a link to the updated document, the submitted REB package, a sent site email, or the finalized tracker entry. Verified means someone else checks it against the definition of done. That can be a project manager, a lead, or a designated reviewer, depending on the task. Finally, closed means it's archived properly, linked to the deliverable location, and any learning is captured: what went well, what caused delay, and what to adjust next time.
RACI Lite is a simple way to prevent the most common team failure in pragmatic trials. Everyone assumes someone else is handling it. The point isn't bureaucracy, it's speed and clarity, especially for each work stream and any high-risk process like site startup, consent changes, protocol deviations, data cleaning, or safety workflows. Start with A, accountable. This is one person, always. They own the outcome, answer for results, and have the authority to make the final call or bring it to the right decision maker. If you have two accountables, you have none. Next is R, responsible, the doers. These are the people executing the work and producing the deliverable. You can have multiple responsibles, but they need coordination through the accountable owner. Then C, consulted, subject matter experts whose input is needed before you finalize an action or decision. Consulted is not a courtesy list. It's the people you genuinely need to avoid mistakes and rework. Finally, informed. Individuals or groups who need to be kept aware of outcomes once a decision is made or work is completed, with no approval required. Used effectively, these methods clarify ownership, keep consultation focused, and reduce unnecessary communication, enabling work to progress more efficiently with fewer items missed. Most dropped work in pragmatic trials happens at the handoff, not because people don't care, but because the transfer is ambiguous. A handoff that doesn't fail uses a short checklist every time work moves between people, work streams, or units. First, be explicit about what is being handed off. Name the deliverable or responsibility, and describe the scope: what's included, what's not, and what the receiver is expected to do next. Second, specify where it lives with a direct link. Third, define what ready means. This prevents premature transfers like, here's the draft, when the receiver needed an approved version, a completed template, or a cleaned dataset. Ready is your definition of done for the handoff moment. Finally, name who confirms receipt. If you enforce these four elements consistently, you reduce rework, eliminate "I thought you had it," and keep the trial moving cleanly across roles and teams.
Escalation is a structured governance mechanism designed to protect timelines, data quality, compliance, and participant safety. In pragmatic trials, the primary risk is not that issues arise, but that they remain unresolved because escalation thresholds, responsible parties, and timelines are unclear. A three-level escalation pathway addresses this by defining explicit triggers and time boxes. As a standard practice, escalation should proceed sequentially through levels, except where a safety concern warrants immediate involvement of the principal investigator. Level 1 escalation occurs between the task owner and the workstream lead. This level is appropriate when a blocker is identified, when there is a risk of minor delay, or when clarification or additional resources are required within the workstream. Resolution should be attempted promptly, typically within 24 to 48 hours, to prevent downstream impacts. If the issue remains unresolved at level 1, requires cross-workstream coordination, involves a missed deadline, or reflects site non-response affecting enrollment or delivery, it advances to level 2, led by the project manager or trial manager. Level 2 should be addressed within 48 to 72 hours and focuses on coordination across functions, dependency management, and corrective action planning. Issues that exceed the project manager's decision authority or that carry implications for safety, budget, scope, or regulatory risk should be escalated to level 3, involving the principal investigator and or steering committee. Safety-related concerns require immediate escalation, while strategic or governance decisions should be time-boxed, typically within 3 to 5 days, to ensure timely direction and avoid prolonged uncertainty.
Internal communication is optimized for speed and coordination, while external communication is optimized for accountability and traceability. Use internal communication for day-to-day execution within the trial team, work planning, rapid problem solving, and informal updates that help the team iterate quickly. The formats can be flexible: chat, brief calls, or quick check-ins, because the goal is to remove friction and keep work moving. Documentation expectations are lighter, provided decisions and action items are still captured in the appropriate tracker or meeting record. Use external communication when the message creates or confirms commitments outside the internal team, deliverables to sites, partners, or sponsors, requests for approvals, and any official decisions. External communication requires formal documentation, version control, and archiving, because it may be relied upon later for compliance, governance, and auditability. The practical rule at the bottom is the one to remember. If a communication affects scope, timeline, or budget, treat it as external-grade documentation, even if it begins as an internal discussion. This ensures that material changes are recorded consistently, approvals are traceable, and the trial's operational record remains defensible.
Each channel has a purpose, and misusing it creates confusion, lost decisions, and unnecessary meetings. Async messages are best for quick questions, small clarifications, and FYI updates that do not require a formal record. They are not appropriate for decisions, approvals, or anything that must be traceable. That format supports version control, creates a durable record, and reduces ambiguity. What email is not suited for is long, iterative back and forth. If the conversation becomes complex or contested, it should move to a meeting. Meetings, whether video or in person, are reserved for cross-functional decisions. Meetings should not be used for simple status updates or one-way information sharing. Finally, tracker comments are where task-specific updates should live. They link context directly to the work item, what changed, what is blocked, and what evidence exists, so anyone reviewing the tracker can understand progress without searching across messages. Tracker comments are not the right place for broader strategic discussions that require wider visibility and decision-making authority. Operational management in pragmatic trials should scale over time. The same meeting cadence, tracking intensity, and escalation practices that work in startup will be inefficient or insufficient later in the lifecycle. This slide summarizes how to adjust your management approach by phase. During startup, the work is dependency heavy. Contracts, IRB/REB submissions, site readiness, and data flow configuration. This phase requires detailed dependency mapping, frequent decisions, and typically a higher meeting cadence because multiple critical path items must be coordinated in parallel. In recruitment and implementation, the emphasis shifts to execution at pace. You need high-frequency huddles, rapid escalation for enrollment barriers, and active site support. Check-ins may be daily or twice weekly because small delays at sites quickly translate into missed recruitment targets and downstream timeline impacts. During follow-up and data collection, the management approach becomes more exception-based. Finally, closeout is checklist-driven and verification-heavy. The priority is ensuring all deliverables are complete, data are cleaned and locked, documentation is finalized, and sites are formally closed. Closeout succeeds when completion is systematically verified, not assumed. The key principle is to deliberately recalibrate your operational system as the trial progresses, rather than running the same routines from beginning to end.
When handoffs are explicit and escalation pathways are time-boxed, issues are resolved before they become delays or compliance risks. And when you adjust your cadence and controls across the trial lifecycle, you avoid over-managing early or under-managing later. The goal is not perfection. It is a reliable execution system that protects the trial, the team, and the people relying on the results.